Parliament that you won't see elsewhere. Plus, there's exclusive interviews with MPs from all parties.
But quite often, they paper over the real truth. Why does a working class lad like you join the Tories?
That's a good question.
Don't miss it. Monday to Thursdays at noon on GB News.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
A very good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, and Mercy Muraki on your TV, radio and online.
Yes, very good morning. We're here with you until midday again to start your week off with all the big stories of the day, lots of discussion with expert guests and our frank opinions.
Yes, and we want to hear your opinions too, so get in touch, gbviews at gbnews.uk. We'll get to as many of those as we can, but before all of that, here's your latest headlines.
A very good morning to you. It's just 1 minute past 10. I'm Rosie Wright, keeping you up to date today on GB News. Now, organisers of the Champions League final are meeting in Paris to discuss the violent scenes outside of the stadium where English fans were tear-gassed by French police on Saturday. The French sports minister says the initial problems were caused by large numbers of Liverpool fans turning up without valid tickets. The game started 35 minutes late after police tried to hold back people attempting to force their way into the stadium. The Culture Secretary has urged UEFA to launch a formal investigation into what went wrong. Minister for Tech and Digital Economy, Chris Philp, told GB News a quick investigation is vital.
I'm deeply concerned. I've seen those video pictures showing Liverpool fans, children, disabled fans as well, getting pepper sprayed by the French police for no apparent reason. I am deeply, deeply concerned about that. The policing by the French police does look heavy-handed, and that's why it's important to get this UEFA inquiry underway as quickly as possible to urgently find out what really happened.
Liverpool fan Owen Thomas was at the game and he told us it was a nightmare to get out of the stadium when the match was over.
The police had closed, or the authorities had closed all of the gates apart from one. So if you imagine there's a huge bottleneck of thousands of originally Liverpool fans and then more and more Real Madrid fans all coming in together and down this very dangerous bottleneck situation. It was almost a traumatic experience. I praise the fans of both teams for staying relatively calm, for not reacting to the tear gas. There was pepper spray. As I said, children who had been tear gassed and pepper sprayed.
In Ukraine, Russian forces are advancing in Severodonetsk, a city that's now become a key objective for Moscow's offensive in the eastern Donbass region. A regional governor reports the fighting is very fierce. President Zelensky says around 90% of the buildings are damaged and that there are no telecommunications in the city. Meanwhile, the UK's Ministry of Defence says Russia's fighting forces are experiencing poor morale and discipline problems amid credible reports of mutinies. In Nepal, 14 bodies have been recovered after a small plane crashed in the Himalayas. 22 passengers were on board the Tara air flight, which went down during cloudy weather on Sunday. Rescue workers have been scouring the mountainside for wreckage, with officials saying the chance of finding any survivors is slim. Members of Northern Ireland's Legislative Assembly are meeting today to make an attempt to nominate a speaker. More than 30 members of the devolved Assembly signed a recall petition to bring members back to Stormont. They'll also be aiming to appoint a First Minister and a deputy. The Democratic Unionist Party has blocked the formation of an executive as part of its protest against the Northern Ireland Protocol. They're calling the move a stunt. A charity has warned that homeless people who've asked for help from their local council are trapped on the streets due to a shortage of affordable homes. A survey by Crisis reveals almost half of those who sought help from their local authority remain homeless after their contact with the housing team ends. Well, real estate company Zoopla is reporting that the average price of a UK home has now hit over £250,000 for the first time in April. But the pace of price growth, they say, is slowing. Property expert Theo Ogathunde told GB News the government needs to build more houses.
The underlying factor for all of this is that demand is way higher than supply. And that's an issue we've had in Great Britain for quite some time. We're not building enough houses at all. So this is becoming a big problem. There just needs to be more and more government intervention, especially when it comes to building more houses as well. House building in the UK is dominated by people doing it for commercial benefit, right? We need the government to do more so that we have more non-for-profit buildings coming up in general.
Graduates from outside the UK can look for a job in Britain under a new scheme. Successful applicants from the top 50 non-UK universities with a bachelor's or master's will be given a 2-year work visa, while PhD holders can apply for a 3-year visa. The Home Secretary, Priti Patel, says this scheme will put ability and talent first and not where someone comes from. This is GB News. You are up to date, and I'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's head to the point with Patrick and Mercy.
Yes, good morning. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, and Mercy Muroki. Right here, we're with you all the way through until midday.
Yes, well, the French sports minister has blamed Liverpool fans for the chaotic scenes at the Champions League final on Saturday in Paris. Well, our culture secretary has demanded UEFA launch a formal investigation into what went on. Well, we'll be asking what the hell did go on and what was the French approach and was it wrong?
Well, when does a joke become a crime? Well, the goalpost might be about to move on that, as campaigners warn that the government's new hate crime strategy could end up criminalising comics like Ricky Gervais for simply making jokes. We'll be talking to a comedian for his opinion.
Yes, and you've heard from the Chancellor about interest rates, tax cuts, tax hikes, levies, one-off payments, repayable credits, and all that other fiscal jargon. But the real question you're telling us you want answered is exactly what you're entitled to and how the Chancellor will be helping you and your household. We'll be giving you some answers.
Yeah, we've got all that coming your way and much, much more across the show. You can get in touch, as usual, GBViews at gbnews.uk. But first, I'm going to give my views on the French police. I'm a bit conflicted over this one this morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am a Manchester United fan, and in my defence, I do at least come from Manchester. But that does mean something, doesn't it? And it means that I don't normally like the Scousers. Well, their football team, anyway, of course. But that's football, OK? That's football. And ironically, what happened in Paris over the weekend, before the Champions League final, and during, and a bit after, actually, had nothing to do with football. It was personal, OK? And in case you're not aware, it kicked off big time. The French gendarmes saw fit to spray gas at the disabled, blind people, young children and women, both as they attempted to get into the ground and at a designated fan zone. Now, UEFA and the French police are claiming that thousands of Liverpool fans attempted to get into the ground using fake tickets. Look, part of the magic of the Champions League final is the attempt to get into the ground, to watch your team hopefully win the European Cup. Football history is littered with stories of people who begged, borrowed and stole to get to the game. Some Liverpool fans even hired a boat and sailed across the channel this time. If you walk around the centre of Manchester, there's at least 1 million people who will claim to have been in that ground on that fateful evening in '99 when Solskjaer broke the Germans' heart. It's hardly a shock, is it, that people would try to illegally get into the biggest football match of the year. And I'm sure there was a bit of argy-bargy as well. There is every week outside Premier League grounds. And no matter what, though, it doesn't excuse the way the French police behaved. Take a look at this video. And if those of you obviously listening on radio, it shows a young lad, he's just trying to get into the ground, right? He walks up to scan his ticket. A police officer walks up to him and just randomly sprays him in the face with tear gas, OK? What's all that about? And then another video which shows a woman getting beaten up by the police in a designated fan zone in what appears to be an unprovoked attack. Yeah, it's absolutely staggering. They're kind of battening her in the face and ramming her in the teeth with their shields or whatever. It's bad stuff. It's bad stuff. But look, you know, it's really, really scummy behaviour. Now, I want to make something very, very clear. I was absolutely fuming when I heard the Liverpool fans booing the national anthem and Prince William during that FA Cup final. I thought that was an absolute disgrace. And it's no surprise that I was supporting Real Madrid on Saturday. But whether or not Liverpudlians want to be English, they are. And I don't stand for watching my fellow countrymen and women getting beaten up by the cowardly French. I think it was political. I wouldn't be surprised if this order came right from the very, very top. The French have riots every single week and the police don't always behave like this, do they? France actually hosts major sporting events regularly, and this kind of disorganised chaos doesn't really tend to occur. Now, I strongly suspect that this was about giving the English a bloody nose. And I think if the French had shown this kind of fight during, dare I say it, either war or in terms of standing up for Ukraine, then I would have more respect for them. But as it stands, this was just a bunch of pumped-up Robocops from a nation that, frankly, Britain has helped to save, has outmanoeuvred politically and logistically in recent times, run by a pound-shop Napoleon in a quite a strange marriage, who's doing his best to diminish his country's standing on the world stage. Yeah, I just think that the way that the French police behaved there is inexcusable. And, you know, obviously there's a little bit of good-natured ribbing that takes place between Liverpudlians and Mancunians and, frankly, any area in the UK, right? And I get all of that, but there's no doubt about this in my mind that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all Brits, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was completely unacceptable that some fans who had genuine tickets, who arrived in good time, then faced this kind of chaos where the police were essentially treating them like they were criminals. Yeah. And I thought it was very savvy, actually, those fans who hired a boat going across the channel. It's nice to see a boat going that way instead of the other way for once.
Taste of medicine there, isn't it? Yeah, deal with this.
So, you know, I think there's questions that have to be answered, a lot of questions that have to be answered about that, and hopefully we will get some answers, perhaps not an apology, though, from the French.
Yeah, but, I do just think as well, even if people turn up without a ticket or whatever, you know, this is a major sporting event. That happens at every single major sporting event, and we normally keep our tear gas in our pockets, don't we? But anyway, joining us now to talk about this further is Richard Kramer, a sports lawyer and head of Front Row Legal, who provide legal advice to sports, media and business industries. Richard, thank you so much. Look, what's your overall take on this? Because people are calling for an inquiry, aren't they?
Well, there probably needs to be an inquiry, but what we are seeing now is almost a repeat of bad incidents in high-profile matches. I was on your show, on a similar show last week with GBNews about the problems with fans invading the pitch in these playoff games. What's going through my mind is this almost is becoming a major problem because if I cast your mind back to nearly 12 months ago when we were hosting the Euros, and in particular the final, there was terrible kind of problems in the ground at Wembley, outside the ground, and a massive issue with policing. But almost a kind of scenario where a lot of fans did get into the stadium without tickets. And whether the police have sort of formed that kind of view now that, in effect, all Brits are hooligans and this is what they deserve, perhaps is going through their mind. But clearly that's not right, and we've seen the most appalling type of behaviour from the French police, just to indiscriminately throw tear gas or pepper gas at young people and to beat up young kids. And the stories are horrific, and the stories will keep coming out over the next few days. So there clearly needs to be an inquiry, but this problem keeps coming up time and time again with big events. Now, is it a problem with counterfeit tickets? The fans think they can buy a counterfeit ticket and get into the ground. We
well,
don't
just
know.
on that, sorry to interrupt, but just on that, it's just because I think you've hit a really crucial point there. You know, there is a bit of me that says if you rock up and you've probably had a fair bit to drink as well, let's be honest, I don't imagine there were too many sober Liverpudlians there in Paris, and you've not got a genuine ticket and you are trying to get into a ground, then do you expect trouble from the police? Or is it that the police went too far?
Well, I suppose, you know, what's going through my mind now is this is all about Liverpool. Well, what happened to the Real Madrid fans? We don't see any of that sort of behaviour with, you know, the police inflicting almost terrible sort of damage to the Real Madrid fans. That seemed to be Liverpool is where the big focus was. So the million-dollar question is why was there no trouble with the Real Madrid fans? And so, you know, there's just a lot of questions to be asked. But to me, this almost looks like a little bit of revenge for some of perhaps the incidents that happened in the Euros at Wembley. But what's happening now is you know, us genuine fans that love to go to a big sporting event are almost being sort of almost treated as if we're just looking at the pictures now with some kind of out of control hooligans. And what we did see, what looking at now, is these are genuine fans with tickets that want to get into the ground. But unless they sort these problems out with ticketing and how to get into the ground and how to avoid counterfeit ticketing, we're going to get this repeated problem. But million-dollar question for me is why was it the Liverpool fans were picked on, and what happened to the Real Madrid fans?
Apparently this was basically a full day of relentless mugging off, because what happened was they put them way out of the way. So apparently, from what I read, obviously I wasn't there, the Real Madrid fan zone was about a 5-minute walk to the ground. The Liverpool fan zone was much, much further away. So they have to then funnel them all the way through for absolutely ages. There's a hold-up on the way. They get there. The gates are supposedly not working, and sometimes they are working, then they're not working again. And then the pepper spray comes out. And then at the designated fan zone, you see a woman getting her front teeth knocked out by a French police officer. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm absolutely livid about this. And this is coming from a Manchester United fan, for goodness sake. Do you think there's any chance that this might be a little bit political as well, dare I say it? You know, is there any chance, do you think, that the French have maybe decided to quite literally give the Brits a bloody nose?
It feels that way, yes. And why is it? Because, you know, we have a reputation wrongly that, you know, there might be a small minority that caused problems, and, you know, it was unforgivable what happened at Wembley for the Euros final, but it just would appear to be that we've got almost this tag now as anything to do with English fans, that we attend these big events and we as a group of fans, genuine fans, cause trouble. And that's not right. And so you just have to ask yourself, why were the police allowed to be so aggressive against these Liverpool fans and just throwing pepper spray into people's faces and beating up just genuine fans? It is absolutely shocking. And, you know, the irony is, of course, is that the sad part is that Liverpool sadly have been associated with disasters at Hillsborough and Heysel. And here we are now with almost, you know, history repeating itself with another problem, with a big event. And this almost seems to be the main news as opposed to the match itself.
Yeah.
Well, look, Richard, thank you so much for giving us your views on that topic. Certainly lots of views coming in as well from our viewers. So one that people are passionate about, Richard Kramer there, a sports lawyer and head of Front Row Legal. I think it was interesting what Richard said there about, you know, obviously Liverpool club's history and the history, of course, there with Hillsborough as well, which is why there's an added layer of sensitivity to all of this. I think, however, Peter makes a very good point. Peter's just emailed in and he said, Paris has suffered terrible atrocities and rioting for years now. Their policing is understandably zero tolerance of all antisocial behaviour. What they never do is tear gas innocent. So basically, he's saying the police in Paris, their natural inclination is to sort of be more heavy-handed because of the experience they've had.
I can understand that, but this is very much a world event. And if I was Emmanuel Macron, I'd be absolutely fuming over this right now, because the world is now looking at the way that France essentially deals with crowds. And, OK, if these were like the Gilets jaunes or whatever, I'm not excusing any of this behaviour, but, you know, some kind of riot, a full-blown riot, then you can understand it. But these are people who are going to watch a football match. And anyway, there we go. Gary's been on. Gary, thank you. I've been saying this for ages. It's an attack on us to punish us for Brexit. All the airport disruption queues and baggage losses only seem to happen when the destination is Europe. He says he's not going to go to any EU country now. There we go. He wouldn't support their economy by spending money in the EU. Gary taking a radical approach.
Well, somebody's also asked whether your seat's been cranked up today, because you look much taller than me.
Shall I?
Go on.
Oh, hello.
Patrick
there we go.
is... That's about
Sit
right.
down to my level, because it's right, because we know when the eye level looks like I'm zapping you in the face with this, with that white thing. Am I on it? Yeah, OK, fair enough. Anyway, right, that got weird quick. OK, so we're going to move on from that right now. After the break, I feel very low down now. A new government hate speech plans, putting comedy under threat. We'll be joined by a comedian to see whether or not they're concerned.
Hello, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather update. Plenty of showers across the country today. Some sunny spells around as well, but it's not particularly warm for the end of May. Low pressure is in control of our weather. It's a fairly slow-moving area of low pressure. Not a lot of isobars on the chart, which means the winds are light, which means the showers are slow-moving, so you can get stuck under the showers for quite a while through the afternoon, particularly parts of eastern England, Northern England, southern Scotland and northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, the showers are a bit more hit and miss, so again, because they're fairly slow-moving, you may stay largely dry and bright with a bit of sunshine. Temperatures could creep into the high teens, but for most, we're low to mid-teens at best, feeling cooler, particularly if you get caught in a downpour. There'll be plenty of those around, and we'll still keep those heavy showers through the evening. They'll slowly start to fade, certainly across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, and for parts of the Midlands and southwest England, not too many showers overnight. The showers also easing across northeast Scotland, but we'll keep some elsewhere. Temperatures dropping down into single figures even in towns and cities. So a coolish start to another showery day on Tuesday. Again, the showers will develop across pretty much all areas. Again, some of them could be quite heavy, and again, they'll be fairly slow moving. I suspect, though, parts of southwest Wales, southwest England, not seeing too many showers. Certainly by the afternoon, looking largely dry here with some sunny spells. At the same time, a lot of cloud for Northern Ireland and plenty of heavy showers across eastern England. Again, on the cool side, but with a bit more sunshine in the southwest, 17, 18, possibly 19 Celsius. Still, the showers keep going as we head through Tuesday evening and into Wednesday, and we'll keep a fair few showers during Wednesday, and that's how it's looking as we lead into the big weekend, of course, the Jubilee weekend. So likely to still be a few showers around at first, but overall the weather trend's becoming drier and warmer for the Jubilee. Goodbye.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, it's 10:23 and this is To The Point with me, Mercy Moroki, and Patrick Christie's on GB News. We're live on your TV, online and radio this morning.
We are indeed. Now, the government's new hate strategy has the potential to criminalise comedians, according to free speech campaigners. So they worry that comedians could have official complaints made about their stand-up routines and potentially have so-called non-hate crime incidents recorded against them.
Yes, well, this was, however, denied by the Home Office, who said, quote, "These claims are completely wrong. There are no plans to expand recording of non-crime hate incidents, nor will we criminalise comedians or introduce a complaint scheme. Free speech is a fundamental right, and we will always protect it."
Right. Well, there. Joining us now is comedian Darius Davies. Darius, thank you so much for joining us. Hey, look, the Home Office have said, you know, this is no laughing matter. They're not going to be clamping down on comedians at all.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's not just comedians, though. It's a slippery slope. You start with comedians and then, you know, you can use those powers to, you know, silence other people that might have views that you disagree with. So I think anytime you try and silence comedians or anything kind of in the arts, it's basically essentially burning books, and this is what you're allowed to say, this is what you're allowed to think, this is what you're allowed to hear. So it's a very slippery slope, I think.
Isn't it the case that the appropriate filter to check whether a joke is acceptable is whether people laugh at it? Because quite frankly, I do like to believe we live in a society where, you know, if something's obviously malicious, if something is obviously inciting violence, for example, or if something is obviously meant to cause harm, people aren't going to find that funny. But, you know, other jokes around trans and gender and identity, people do find those funny.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we already have laws against hate speech and crimes against hate speech. I think as well, the audience are definitely the barometer. They can tell when something's malicious or comes from a really kind of sinister place, and they simply won't laugh. And, you know, the joke will just die before it's, you know, it will die there and then. So I think it doesn't need to be kind of policed or looked at. Yeah, some jokes you might find offensive. They might be making fun of you, and others you might not find offensive. I'm Iranian. I've seen comedians make fun of Iranians, and I've seen comedians make fun of other things. And, you know, if you're going to laugh at certain things, you have to be able to laugh at everything.
Do you think there's any topic that is off limits when it comes to mocking or joking about something?
Not really. I think if you're a good comedian, you should be able to joke about whatever you want, and I think you can, and I think the really good comedians can, and it's whether or not it comes from, like I said, a malicious place. A lot of the problems, especially with people complaining online, is that they probably haven't seen the entire special, or they've taken a part out of context. That definitely happened with Chappelle, and obviously there's a clip going around with Gervais, but he's also in that special making fun of, you know, Adolf Hitler and other AIDS and other contentious topics. So it's like, oh, we can laugh at those, but we don't want to laugh at this because it offends us personally.
Do you ever feel censored on stage? Have you ever had anyone who's been at a gig of yours who's stood up and gone, "That's an absolute disgrace"?
I mean, I've had I've had people attack me on stage. I've had people try and punch me. People throw beer at me. But the truth is, I'm not a very contentious comedian, really. I talk about stuff like plugs and stuff. So I don't go out of my way to write offensive material. But some people will take offense.
What did you say? You talk about things... Sorry, what did you say? You joke about things like what?
Floods.
About how the UK standard 3-pin plug is the best plug in the world. Yeah, because it is the best plug in the world.
Right.
But even that, for example, I say, the UK standard 3-pin plug is the best plug in the world. People have come up to me after, they go, "Oh, that's racist because the Spanish plug is just as good." It's like, well, you've gone out of your way to take offense at this innocuous joke. So some people are just looking right now to find offence, to make it about them. And it's not about them. So anyone can find offence about anything.
I am inclined to agree with you because I once fell out of bed abroad and landed directly on one of those two-pronged plugs and it went straight through my foot. So, yes, I think a good British plug is...
So you'd rather the E go through your foot?
No, because they're not as sharp and pointy, right?
That's
So
true.
it's harder
So
to do.
can I just... I'm actually curious now. This plug joke, what's the punchline?
It's a long routine about how the UK standard 3-pin plug is the best. The point being, though, is if you fell out of bed and landed on the 3-pin plug, you'd probably have to get your leg amputated. That would be the difference.
Maybe, but, you know, for a man who claims to know...
I know what you mean, they're not as sharp.
For a man who knows, for a man who claims to know a lot about the British plug, what you'd understand is they're a lot shorter, so there's less damage, and they're a bit blunter on the end, right? I'm just saying, we're on the same side here, OK? We're on the same side. Anyway, Darius, thank you very, very much. Great to have you on the show.
You.
And good luck not getting cancelled by the Home Office. So, there we go.
Thank you.
Of course.
Sounded like you're making a deportation joke then.
Oh, gosh. Oh. No.
Which is funny.
Not getting cancelled by the Home Office, yeah. Sorry about that. Just for a bit of context, right, the Home Office was accused, anyway, of maybe bringing in some laws that might censor comedians. God, I hope you didn't take it that way.
No, I'm sure it's fine. Well, after the break, as the dust settles on last week's announcement by the Chancellor that the government will financially help those struggling with the cost of living, we'll be looking at exactly what you're entitled to, and we're asking, will it really make a difference? But before that, a look at this morning's news.
Life's Rwanda.
A very good morning to you. It's 10:30. I'm Rosie Wright, keeping you up to date on GB News. The organisers of the Champions League final are meeting in Paris to discuss the violent scenes outside of the stadium over the weekend, where English fans were tear-gassed by French police on Saturday. The UK's Culture Secretary, Nadine Dorries, has urged the Union of European Football Associations to launch a formal investigation into what went wrong. Ministers have reportedly been warned that as many as 6 million households could face power cuts this winter if Russia cuts off more supplies to the EU. The Times newspaper says the government is drawing up plans to ration electricity in case of major industrial gas shortages. The Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy says the government is fully prepared for any scenario, even those that are extreme and very unlikely. In Ukraine, Russian forces have entered the outskirts of Severodonetsk, a city that's become a key objective for Moscow's offensive in the eastern Donbass region. A regional governor reports the fighting there is very fierce. President Zelensky says around 90% of the buildings are damaged and that there are no telecommunications in the city. Northern Ireland's Parliament is meeting today to make a new attempt to nominate a Speaker, a First Minister and a Deputy. It's after more than 30 members of the Legislative Assembly signed a recall petition following a motion by Sinn Féin. The Democratic Unionist Party has called the move a stunt. The party's blocking the formation of an executive as part of its protest against the Northern Ireland Protocol. Drivers are being warned to expect long delays on popular routes during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee weekend. The RAC estimates that nearly 20 million journeys are planned between Wednesday and Sunday. Friday is expected to be the most congested. We're on your TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.263 to the dollar. The pound is 1.76 to the euro. The price of gold currently stands at £1,470 and 64 pence per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News, investments that matter.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah. We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Yes, hello everybody, it's 10:34. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christie's, and Mercy Murky on GB News. We're live on your TV, online and radio.
Yes, well, to today's controversy feature, and we're discussing how the Attorney General, Suella Braverman, has come under fire for saying that schools are not legally required to cater to trans children. She told the Times newspaper, quote, "A male child who says in a school that they are a trans girl, that they want to be female, is legally still a boy or a male, and schools have a right to treat them as such under the law."
Yes, indeed. Why is this controversial? Is the Attorney-General being harsh? What do you think? Well, joining us to discuss this right now is Calvin Robinson, a former teacher and, of course, GB News commentator as well. Calvin, thank you very, very much for joining us. Are you struggling to see what's so controversial about saying that men are men and women are women?
I am indeed. I happen to have been a school governor with Suella Braverman, actually, at the Michaela Community School, fantastic school in Wembley, Brent. So I know she knows what she's talking about. This is nothing outrageous. She's just reiterating what the law already is. A child is a child. That child is either male or female, and a child cannot choose to change their gender because they cannot make such life-altering decisions until they're an adult. It's quite simple, really. The only difference here is that schools have been reminded not to take these decisions unquestionably. What's been happening is that children have said, you know, my pronouns today, miss, are he, her, she, them, whatever, and the teachers have been taking that on board as if it's a fact, when it's clearly not.
I do want to pick you up on something you just said there. Your issue is with schools, taking these issues and accepting that a child is trans without questioning anything. I wonder if you think there are cases where it might be appropriate for a school to start referring to a child as the gender they want to identify as. Aren't there certain circumstances where it might be cruel to actually continue calling the child a male if they identify as a female?
No, we're born either male or female, and later on in life, as adults, if we want to go through a transition and become a trans male or a trans female, that is up to us as adults. But as a child, if they have gender dysphoria, which I believe is a real mental illness, then they need to be treated. They need to see a therapist. They need to have a conversation with their parents and with the school, keep the school in the loop. Fantastic. But what the school cannot do is take on board a child's delusions. And this is what we're talking about at the moment, because it affects the school uniform policy, it affects which toilets the child uses, it affects the sports that they engage in. It's more serious than just taking on board what someone wants to be referred to as. We've seen situations in the UK, in English schools, where a child has asked to be referred to as a horse, and the teachers have been encouraged to give the child carrots. Now, that's clearly an unquestioning approach to nonsense, and children will push the boundaries as far as they can, because that's what children do. It's not about them being naughty or...
Calvin, was that a real story, or were you just giving an illustration?
Real story. That's a genuine story.
Hey. I mean, OK, great. I suppose, well if we're doing this, I suppose, then, can I identify as Paul Gascoigne and I'm allowed to play football and go to the pub all the time?
Or you can just identify as an A-star student and then they have to give you A-star. I think this is a good system, actually, that you can use to your advantage. But, Calvin, look, where do you think we're heading with this whole conversation around trans children, gender identity and things like that? Because the government are starting to slowly but surely come out against some of the craziness, I would say. But then again, you do have people, particularly in the opposition, like Stella Creasy, who will say what women can have a penis. Are you worried that if Labour do get into power, the direction won't go the way you might want it to?
Yeah, because Labour don't seem to know what a woman is anymore. That's very worrying that a basic biological fact has been skirted around so publicly. It's because, I understand these people are well-intentioned. They really don't want to cause any harm or upset or offence. But of course, if you truly love people, if you truly want to be kind, you have to tell them the truth. There's no point lying to people's faces. And it's worrying when we talk about children in particular, because we've seen in Scotland at one point they suggested that 4-year-olds could determine their gender. And of course, we wouldn't expect a 4-year-old to be able to smoke, to drink, to drive, to make any other life-affecting decisions at such a young age, and to suggest that they actually know what gender is at that age. For a boy to be wearing a dress or a girl to be a tomboy, that kind of thing is normal at 4 years old. It's fine. They're experimenting. Puberty hasn't even taken place yet. They haven't got those hormones rushing through their bodies yet. So of course, children should just be free to be children, and we don't have to put these labels on them and actually say, oh, maybe you're a transgender, or you're actually not a boy, you're a trans girl. All these things are wrong. And what they're actually doing is, rather than being kind, they are neglecting the children, and it is a form of child abuse.
OK, now I'm just going to move away from the school aspect of it and talk more about the kind of crime aspect of it as well. There is a police force, talking about this a bit later on, that's allowing criminals, or suspected criminals anyway, to identify as one of 67 different genders. And actually there was a report that came out over the weekend, we'll also be talking about this as well, which is, surprise, surprise, this has now finally happened. 2 inmates, one a man who's identifying as a woman, basically, and another a woman, got drunk, get this, on illegally made prison liquor, right? And then were found having consensual sex. So, I mean, this is really happening now, isn't it? We're allowing men into women's prisons and, shock horror, sometimes they have sex.
Well, thank God that was consensual, because the situation could be far worse, couldn't it? If we're letting males into female-only spaces, even if it's a prison, that's a dangerous concept, because we all know that for rape to take place, there has to be penetration. That means that a male with male productive organs needs to be there and enforce himself on a female with female productive organs. Those two should not be mixed in safe spaces, such as a prison. It's common sense. And we're getting to a point, all this self-identity rubbish is purely rubbish. If someone wants to go through a transition and live their lives as the opposite gender, that is fair play to them as a grown adult after years of therapy and treatment and all that kind of stuff. But we should not be mixing genders in places that are no longer safe. We've got to protect women's spaces.
Yeah, Calvin, look, thank you very much, mate. Always an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Calvin Robinson there.
Thank you, Calvin.
One of our very own political commentators now as well. Loads of emails coming in, gbviews@gbnews.uk. And yeah, it's still pouring in about the Liverpool issue in France, right? So people saying, yeah, they're worried that this order might have come from the top. In case you are just joining us, of course, Liverpool fans. Yes, all right, I'm sure very high-spirited, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure that, a few beers were drunk on the streets of Paris, but at the same time, they don't deserve to be pepper sprayed by French police, certainly not the disabled women or children.
No, absolutely not. And on this issue of trans children, Clive says Suella Braverman, the Attorney General, is really spot on. These children should be told by their parents while at school they have to dress, they have to be dressed and to be referred to in the body they were born in. So quite a stern stance there Clive has. Joanne says, hi Patrick and Mercy, you also have to be careful because some parents may treat their child as a different sex if they had a boy and wanted a girl. So she's saying that it could be parents projecting onto their children. And actually, if you think about it, a parent will only allow their child, their boy, to dress as a girl and be identified as a girl if they have those values, they have very liberal values in the first place. So I would say in all cases, it's parents projecting their own values onto their children.
Then, is it wrong? Look, I'm obviously not a parent, as I always say, as far as I'm aware. But, yeah, do you think it's wrong, though, if I had a son, or if your daughter, right, if your daughter came to you and said, I want to dress as a boy, right, and you actively stopped her from doing that, is that wrong?
Well, see, the thing is, this is why I think it's complicated, because I know my daughter would never do that. She's the girliest girl. I was going to say I've known her all her life, obviously.
Well, yeah.
I can tell she's a girl. She loves all things girls. She won't even... If she won't let me buy anything from the boys section,
right.
even if it's a unisex. So, but if I had suspected from an early age that maybe she acts and thinks a bit like a boy, then maybe I'd feel a bit different. But if she did come up to me randomly, I'd just think somebody's poisoned her head and filled her head with random nonsense. But that's because I know my own child. So
you'd actively stop her from dressing up as a boy?
But however, if I'd suspected in the past that maybe she's a bit... Then I'd give it more consideration. But look, who cares, you know? Like, boys and girls, little boys and girls, they can dress however they want, really. Nobody bats an eyelid if they see a little boy sort of wearing a unicorn top, a sparkly unicorn top.
Just little boys. But yes, absolutely. Maybe one day you and I should swap clothes.
I don't think you'd fit in mine, love.
No. Fair enough. OK, thank you very much for that. Anyway, right, OK. Last week, Chancellor Rishi Sunak announced a new series of economic measures designed to help people with the cost of living crisis. Now, this includes a £400 grant off energy bills paid by the windfall tax, obviously, on profits of energy companies.
Yes, well, Labour's Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, welcomed the announcement, saying, quote, "We welcome the fact that the government is finally acting on our calls to introduce a windfall tax, and it's good to see the SNP U-turning today and saying they're now in favour of a windfall tax on oil and gas profits." Well, are the Chancellor's measures enough to tackle the cost of living crisis? And should he even be making all those interventions as a Conservative Chancellor? Well, Julian Jessup is an independent economist and joins us now to answer some of our questions. Look, sometimes when we're discussing fiscal issues, we can get caught up in jargon, and I think it's easy for people in the media to forget that people at home, they just care about how much more money am I going to have in my bank account at the end of every month. So if you could you sort of break down the actual cash sums and the grants and things people will be receiving on a low income?
OK, well, first of all, I must admit I spent most this weekend arguing about this package with people. I think there are lots of people who are very uncomfortable about it. For a start, it is very expensive. I mean, the true cost is probably somewhere north of 20 billion, not the 15 billion headline number. A lot of the money will clearly go to people who don't really need it. So everybody will benefit from a £400 discount on their energy bills, whether they're rich or poor. And indeed, if you own more than one home, you'll get more than one discount. And I think also it's not really a substitute for the longer term solutions to these problems, supply side reforms, tax cuts and so on. But in the short term, I think it's definitely the right thing to do. There will be some quite substantial payments to people. It depends which category you're in, but if you're on certain types of income-related means-tested benefits, you'll get quite a substantial payment, which could easily be, say, £650. If you're a pensioner, you'll get an additional top-up payment similar to the winter fuel allowance. And if you're disabled, you'll get a payment on top of that as well. So a lot of the money is being well targeted at those that need it most. But the overall package is very expensive, and I fully understand why lots of people are uncomfortable about it.
I just wanted to ask, what is the aversion to properly targeting it, or let me not say properly, targeting it towards the lowest income people? Because as you say, some of millionaires will be getting some support at this rate. Is it because it would cost so much to administer that it would sort of wipe out the benefits if you decided to target it towards specific people?
Well, that's right. I mean, there's a trade-off here between simplicity on the one hand and effectiveness on the other. There isn't a list somewhere of the most vulnerable people that the government can just target. Now, you can identify those people on certain types of benefit, and clearly they need more support than others. But there'll always be some people who, for whatever reason, will fall through the cracks. So you need to top up targeted benefits with something that will effectively go to everybody. That's not ideal, but I say over the weekend, lots of people coming up with alternative plans actually will be less effective in some way. So, for example, if you were to cut VAT, that would actually benefit most people who spend the most on energy, and those are typically richer people in bigger houses, not poorer people. So there's no easy solution here. I think this sort of general approach of targeting most of the money, but recognising you need a universal top-up in addition to that is probably the right way to go.
Is there a bit of an issue, though? Because we are not a socialist country, really, and at all. And we basically didn't vote for, a left-wing government, in a sense. And now, clearly, some of these policies are not exactly what one would argue being true Conservative policies. Is there a risk now that either A, they're lying to us, or B, we're going to end up with a load of people who basically always have the hand out and expect a government that's going to be able to give them things?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid concern, particularly, of course, on top of the enormous amounts of money the government had to spend during the pandemic to prop up the economy, to support businesses and jobs. So we've had two one-off crises in quick succession. And, what happens when the next one comes along, whatever that might be. So I fully get that concern. On the other hand, I don't think there's anything particularly unconservative about helping people in need during what is an unprecedented cost of living crisis. And the cold reality is that cash payments to some and a universal discount for everybody is the most effective way of getting money into people's pockets as quickly as possible. Some of the other solutions are better in the long run, so supply side reforms and tax cuts, but they don't work as quickly as the measures that have actually been taken. So I don't think it's either or. I think you need to do those supply side reforms and those tax cuts as well. But the immediate problem that you face is best dealt with by these cash payments and a universal discount.
Thank you very much. Always an absolute pleasure, my good man. Julian Jessup there, of course, independent economist, whizzing you through the latest when it comes to the cost of living crisis, a massive issue that all of you obviously care about. It does affect us all. But we're going to move away from that now. Just before we get stuck into the latest headlines that you might have missed, really. There's a cracking email. This is so far email of the day, and it's come from Wayne. Thank you very much, Wayne in Canterbury. I've been trying to identify, it relates to the trans issue that we had before. I've been trying to identify as a 67-year-old man for many years so I can claim my state pension and retire 17 years earlier. But every single time I suggest it, for some reason, I get laughed at. Good stuff, Wayne. I like you. I like your chutzpah.
Yes, well, now let's take you through some of the other headlines of the day that you might have missed. Now, Russia's war in Ukraine has obviously been horrifying to cover. A very, very serious issue, and obviously we can't imagine being forced to flee our homes and seek shelter in a foreign country. However, if that did happen and I was offered accommodation by somebody, I'd be internally grateful. But it doesn't seem like everybody is in that position, because one vegan Ukrainian refugee, Oksana Kopanitsia, complained that being in the same room as somebody eating or preparing meat was being like, quote, somebody was cutting a child in front of you. And so she says she's struggling to find somebody to host her because she's struggling to find a all-vegan home.
Well, she could go back to her own home, she? Like the vegan homes that she already lived in? No, I don't know. Anyway, the charity, the Vegan Society, says veganism needs to obviously be taken seriously as someone's religion. But they said, quote, being forced to leave the entire life they know behind is horrific enough, so finding somewhere they can feel safe and respected in otherwise unfamiliar community where they can comfortably sustain their values. So, I mean, I'm not reading that out. If I was fleeing actual war...
Literally about
which she is, to
a
be
bomb
fair,
dropped on you.
Well, she is. If she's Ukrainian, then she is. And I just don't understand why you can't caveat it, surely.
Look, I'm sorry, but somebody in this position, I would lose respect and sympathy for, because if your primary concern is, I can't possibly be in the same, room as somebody who's preparing a steak, rather than I really don't want to get a bomb dropped on me by a Russian jet, then, the priorities, people, priorities.
I just find it a bit strange. But anyway, right, moving on. This is a cracking story now. A middle-aged couple accidentally live-streamed themselves. This is the kind of stuff we love to see. Accidentally live-streamed themselves engaging in, shall we say, intimate activity during a service in a synagogue.
You whispering sex in my ear was slightly creepy. The duo joined a Zoom stream to attend a virtual bat mitzvah service at the Temple Beth El in Minneapolis. before things got, well, heated in their bedroom, and fellow attendees were horrified when proceedings went on for 45 minutes. So 45 minutes they were streaming themselves for, and they only stopped when they happened to come across one of the many messages that people on that Zoom call were sending them saying, what on earth are you doing? Your camera is on.
I mean, this is fantastic stuff. You love to see it. I mean...
The amount of screenshots people would have taken in 45 minutes.
Well, there are.
Gosh,
they're out there. They're out. I've seen them. It's
people frantically Googling now.
Yeah, frantically Googling. But I mean, it was. I mean, to be fair, this is the thing. Yes, I'm getting something through from the gallery there. So, you know, it probably would have been worse if it was over in about 30 seconds.
That's true. To be honest, this is something the man can boast about now.
This is it.
This is great for him.
Go, yeah, mate, you know me.
Yeah, this is
45 minutes at a bat mitzvah.
I think there is a question, though. I mean, this is a family show and it's half term, so we won't go here. But
well, I don't know. We've got the strapline butt mitzvah just below us there, so we've got.
I mean, 45 minutes is perhaps too long, but you know, I commend the man for his stamina anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, well done, 45 minutes, good lad. Anyway, if you walk into a bar and ask for a litre of beer, the barman or barwoman might look at you quite funnily. If you ask for a pint of... Oh, no, I know what's coming now. If you ask for a pint of beer, they will probably know what you're on about.
Yes, well, the reason we're mentioning this is that the Prime Minister is set to pave the way for the return of pounds and ounces in British shops this week.
Well, ahead of the Jubilee weekend, the government will publish proposals to repeal EU-derived laws that required metric units to be used for nearly all sales and trade.
Yeah, well, later on in the next hour, I'm going to be quizzing Patrick to see if he can
Well, I won't be able to.
If he can convert imperial to metric and back.
Well, I can't. I won't be able to. I mean, give it a go, by all means, but I'm just telling you right now, you can lower
how much weight have you lost?
I've lost just a stone. I've lost a stone, yeah. I need to lose half a stone.
And that's how many...
Pounds.
What, can you do it in pounds?
No.
1 stone in pounds?
14
yeah,
pounds
14 pounds
yeah,
in kilograms?
Yeah. No, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, neither have I.
No, OK. Well, there we go. Anyway, well, what do you think? I think it's quite good, actually, in a way, because if this is going back to kind of our traditions, then we should do it. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I have found it quite amusing seeing how many people this has riled up on Twitter, because they're like, oh, they're trying to hark back to the days of this, that, and the other, and it's like you're getting angry over somebody measuring, you know, some salad and some fruit.
Is that a hill you want to die on?
Yeah, is that really a hill you want to die on? I think it's you know, I couldn't care less, quite frankly, what it's being measured in, but. Nice little gesture for the Jubilee, why not?
Yeah, I agree completely. In fact, you've got a couple of Jubilee-related things here, actually. Mercy likes to... what people don't notice about this is basically what I have to put up with on a daily basis. And Mercy has brought an increasingly large meze of food with her every single day. Today includes, I'll touch it, some Victoria sponge, right, and... quite a lot of blue cheese.
Yeah.
Which is an odd combo, and certainly one that every single time I'm just sat here, I always think, gosh, something here absolutely stinks. And I realise, oh no.
For once, it's not his feet.
Yeah, all right, thank you very much for that. Anyway, moving swiftly on. The views, obviously. At last, the Vegan Society admits it really is a religious fantasy. That's from Peter. Thank you, Peter. GBViews at gbnews.uk. That's in relation to a Ukrainian refugee saying she'll only live in a vegan household. But there we go. We've got plenty more of this to come after this very short break. Stay tuned.
Hello, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather update. Plenty of showers across the country today. Some sunny spells around as well, but it's not particularly warm for the end of May. Low pressure is in control of our weather. It's a fairly slow-moving area of low pressure. Not a lot of isobars on the chart, which means the winds are light, which means the showers are slow-moving, so you can get stuck under the showers for quite a while through the afternoon, particularly parts of eastern England, Northern England, southern Scotland and northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, the showers are a bit more hit and miss, so again, because they're fairly slow-moving, you may stay largely dry and bright with a bit of sunshine. Temperatures could creep into the high teens, but for most, we're low to mid-teens at best, feeling cooler, particularly if you get caught in a downpour. There'll be plenty of those around, and we'll still keep those heavy showers through the evening. They'll slowly start to fade, certainly across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, and for parts of the Midlands, southwest England, not too many showers overnight. The showers also easing across northeast Scotland, but we'll keep some elsewhere. Temperatures dropping down into single figures even in towns and cities. So a coolish start to another showery day on Tuesday. Again, the showers will develop across pretty much all areas. Again, some of them could be quite heavy, and again, they'll be fairly slow moving. I suspect, though, parts of southwest Wales, southwest England, not seeing too many showers. Certainly by the afternoon, looking largely dry here with some sunny spells. At the same time, a lot of cloud for Northern Ireland and plenty of heavy showers across eastern England. Again, on the cool side, but with a bit more sunshine in the southwest, 17, 18, possibly 19 Celsius. Still, the showers keep going as we head through Tuesday evening and into Wednesday, and we'll keep a fair few showers during Wednesday, and that's how it's looking as we lead into the big weekend, of course, the Jubilee weekend. So likely to still be a few showers around at first, but overall the weather trend's becoming drier and warmer for the Jubilee. Goodbye.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah. We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christie's, and Mercy Murky on your TV, radio and online. We're here all the way through until midday with an action-packed show to kickstart your week, expert guests and loads of your views as well.
Yes, and make sure you get in touch with your views. As usual, gbviews@gbnews.uk is the email, and we'll get to those throughout the programme, throughout the last hour anyway. But first, it's time for the latest news.
A very good morning to you. It's 11 o'clock. I'm Rosie Wright, here to keep you up to date on GB News. Organisers of the Champions League final are meeting in Paris to discuss the violent scenes outside of the stadium over the weekend, where English fans were tear-gassed by French police on Saturday. The French sports minister says the initial problems were caused by large numbers of Liverpool fans turning up without valid tickets. The game started 35 minutes late and police tried to hold people back, attempting to force their way into the stadium. Well, the UK's Culture Secretary has urged UEFA to launch a formal investigation into what went wrong. The Minister for Tech and Digital Economy, Chris Philp, told GB News a quick investigation is vital.
Deeply concerned. I've seen those video pictures showing Liverpool fans, children, disabled fans as well, getting pepper sprayed by the French police for no apparent reason. I am deeply, deeply concerned about that. The policing by the French police does look heavy-handed, and that's why it's important to get this UEFA inquiry underway as quickly as possible to urgently find out what really happened.
Well, Liverpool fan Owen Thomas was at the game and he told us it was really difficult to get out of the stadium when the match was over.
The police were
had closed, or the authorities had closed all of the gates apart from one. So if you imagine there's a huge bottleneck of thousands of originally Liverpool fans and then more and more Real Madrid fans all coming in together and down this very dangerous bottleneck situation. It was almost a traumatic experience. I praise the fans of both teams for staying relatively calm, for not reacting to the tear gas. There was pepper spray. As I said, children who had been tear gassed and pepper sprayed.
Downing Street say they're planning to ditch 350 European Union rules. Number 10 says their new procurement bill will rip up hundreds of complicated and bureaucratic regulations and replace them with a single framework for securing public sector contracts. The bill is expected to become law next year. Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Steve Barclay, says the reforms will help to improve public services. Ministers have reportedly been warned 6 million households could face power cuts this winter if Russia cuts off more supplies of energy to the EU. The Times newspaper says the government is drawing up plans to ration electricity in case of major industrial gas shortages. The Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy says the government is fully prepared for any scenario, even those that are extreme and very unlikely. Andy Mayer, CEO and energy analyst at the Institute of Economic Affairs, told us he's confident measures can be taken to avoid power cuts.
It's highly unlikely that we will experience blackouts in the near term. What tends to happen is there is a cascade of different things that the national grid can do in order, for example, to shut down heavy industry. Not a good thing, but something that means that you can prioritise hospitals and homes in terms of heating and lighting. So there isn't yet a fundamental and substantial risk of this happening, but there could be if the government keeps going down this path of trying to make oil and gas as expensive as possible and discouraging domestic investment.
In Ukraine now, Russian forces are advancing into Severodonetsk, a city that has now become a key objective for Moscow's offensive in the eastern Donbass region. A regional governor reports the fighting is very fierce. President Zelensky says around 90% of the buildings are damaged and that there are no communications in the city. Meanwhile, the UK's Ministry of Defence says Russia's fighting forces are experiencing poor morale and discipline problems amid credible reports of mutinies. In Nepal, 20 bodies have been recovered after a small plane crashed in the Himalayas. 22 passengers were on board the Tar Air flight, which went down during cloudy weather on Sunday. Rescue workers have been scouring the mountainside for wreckage, with officials saying the chance of finding any survivors is now slim. Northern Ireland's Parliament is meeting at midday to make a new attempt to nominate a Speaker and appoint a First Minister and a Deputy. It's after more than 30 members of the Legislative Assembly signed a recall petition following a motion by Sinn Féin. The Democratic Unionist Party has called the move a stunt. The DUP is blocking the formation of an executive as part of its protest against the Northern Ireland Protocol. Graduates from outside of the UK can now look for a job in Britain under a new visa scheme. Successful applicants from the top 50 non-UK universities with a bachelor's or a master's will be given a 2-year work visas, while PhD holders can apply for a 3-year visa. Home Secretary Priti Patel says this scheme will put ability and talent first, not where someone comes from. You're up to date on GB News, and I'll bring you more as it happens. Now let's head back to the Point with Patrick and Mercy.
A very good morning. It's 11:06 and this is To The Point on GB News with me, Mercy Moroki, and Patrick Christie's on your TV, radio and online. We're here for another hour with today's top stories, lots of opinions and expert guests.
Yes, OK. Well, Mercy will be giving her views on the pending release of Baby P's mother in just a few moments. We'll also be joined by a former detective chief superintendent of the Met Police to discuss this in more detail.
Yes, and a London council leader has urged Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, not to expand his ultra-low emission zone, also known as ULEZ, into the suburbs. We'll be asking, are drivers being priced off the roads, in particular low-income drivers?
And how are you planning to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee this weekend? Get in touch, let us know. Some lucky charities are awarded the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service as well. Our Yorkshire reporter Anna Riley talks to one award-winning charity about what it meant for them.
Yes, that's all coming up and much more as well across the programme, and you can get in touch with your views, GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Yes, indeed, but first, Mercy gives her opinion on the release from prison of the mother of baby P.
It was revealed a couple of months ago that child killer Tracy Connolly, whose diabolical campaign of torture and negligence led to the death of her 4-year-old son, baby P, is soon to be released from jail. I'm sure you all remember this case. The harrowing details are quite frankly impossible to forget. Connolly was jailed in 2009 along her partner Stephen Barker and his brother Jason Owen after 17-month-old baby Peter endured months of cruelty before succumbing to his injuries. Showing this picture there, poor little thing. Such is the complete laughingstock, however, that is our sentencing guidelines, that baby P's mother, Tracy Connolly, was only given a minimum of 5 years. In fact, the very maximum you can get in this country when convicted of causing or allowing the death of a child is 14 years in prison. That's the very maximum, and that's the offence she was convicted under. Some people can get 1 year, just showing you there for our TV viewers the sentencing guidelines for people who cause or allow the death or serious harm for a child. Well, because our justice system is utterly pathetic, Connolly was released after just serving 4 years. And, lo and behold, just 2 years later, she was back in the nick for breaching the terms of her licence by selling naked pictures of herself online. As if this vomit-inducing excuse of a human isn't stomach-turning enough. Now, I spoke about the news that she was set to be released right here on GB News when it came out just a few months ago. I said at the time that her release was an affront to human decency, an unforgivable desecration of baby P's memory. This woman, this so-called mother, allowed him to suffer more than 50 injuries until his little body simply couldn't take any more. And she gets to spend just a few years lazing around and fattening up at the cost to the taxpayer. And then it's just off you go and good luck, back roaming the streets like nothing happened. How dare they? Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, allow me, if I may, to deliver what I consider welcome news in this otherwise sorry saga. Tracy Connolly, if reports are to be believed, has been refused a new identity when she is released. Allegedly, she has not met the bar to qualify for a new identity. And if this is true, she will not be able to hide under the cloak of anonymity. Instead, she's been advised to lose weight after ballooning to nearly 20 stone in prison. The most recent images of her show her looking, well, you can have a look for yourself, if you dare. For our radio viewers, we are showing an image of her looking rather round, shall we say. She's even apparently been advised to perhaps dye her hair to avoid being noticed. Look, I have many words I'd like to say about this woman, but sadly I can't say most of them. It's only 11:10 in the morning, and what with it being half-term, there's little ears around, of course. But I will say this, not getting a new identity, being released from prison without police protection, good. She should not be allowed to hide from the consequences of the sickening crime she committed, and certainly not at the taxpayer's expense. Maxine Carr, the girlfriend of Sower murderer Ian Huntley, who, if you remember, murdered schoolgirls Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, reportedly costed the taxpayer £2.5 million for a new identity and police protection. I would have rather they'd spent that £2.5 million ensuring child killers stay in prison for longer, quite frankly, wouldn't you? Members of the public would be right to think that Tracy Connolly is nothing but a barbarian who deserves to be completely ostracised from society. And I hope she will be ostracised by her community for crossing that sacred line you simply don't cross, harming a child. Sadly, we have to accept the legal reality that she's served her time and therefore, under the law, she's free to go. But little baby P will never get a new start. He'll never get the chance to live a normal life. And I believe neither should she.
Yeah, interesting stuff, really. I mean, I imagine there might be some civic justice taking place. at some point. So obviously you can't condone, but I mean, if she hasn't got a new identity and people know what she looks like and what she's done as a crime, then it's hard to see how she continues to walk the streets for too much longer.
I mean, I think it's probably safer for her, if she's not getting a new identity, if the reports are true, to probably stay in prison, because this is a case, I remember this, I mean, I was quite young at the time, but this was a case that completely shook the nation, and there's not many cases you can say that about because of the utter depravity of it all. I mean, just reading the list of injuries that baby Peter had was absolutely horrific. It's unimaginable how anybody could have done that to a child.
Yeah.
And, her own mother as well. Sadly, we've seen more cases like that since. But, I'm just glad she won't have that anonymity, shall we say.
Oh, there we go. Well, we're joined in the studio by former Detective Chief Superintendent of the Met, Kevin Hurley. Thank you very, very much for joining us, Kevin. Look, you've obviously been sitting here a little while now and listening to all of this. What's your take overall on this? Should she ever be released from prison, do you think?
What she did was utterly appalling. I've dealt with some cases like that in the past, and it's quite disappointing that under the sentencing guidelines, what she was convicted of, she in fact only received 5 years. But as I understand it, I think she also got what's called an indeterminate public protection order. The shame about which means that a person will be kept in until the parole board decide that they're not a risk to the public. Unfortunately, that order is no longer a sentence that can be given because it's been removed, brought in, I think, by the Labour government. She's been sent back to prison on the last occasion because she effectively breached some of the licensing conditions. She's still subject to that IPP, as it's called, so she could be called back when she offends again, and undoubtedly she will do. From a person who's dealt with these offences all my life, I am appalled that someone who's done something like that has effectively only served 7 or 8 years in closed conditions and the other in open prison, because for a mother, who is, if you like, the ultimate protector of the child, to be involved in this and then allow her partner and partner's brother to do what they did to her baby is truly appalling.
And of course, the Justice Secretary Dominic Raab did try and get this looked at and sort of thrown out, but sadly the parole board did think she was fit for release. We speak a lot on this channel about these sorts of cases. We have the case of Arthur Lavinia Hughes, Star Hobson, others, and even with older cases, it always seems that they never get enough time in prison, the people who commit these crimes. Why are our sentencing guidelines so pathetic, and why does the parole board seem to let people out when common sense would dictate they're not fit to be let out? Look at Colin Pitchfork, for example.
Yep, indeed. I think it's because in this country we've moved away from the idea that prison should in fact be a punishment, a serious sanction, and whilst it's quite right that we take the opportunity to rehabilitate certain types of people, there is an issue where society demands that people actually suffer significant punishment for whatever they've done that's truly horrendous. And Colin Pitchfork is yet another case, murdered and raped 2 women. In fact, the first case ever solved by DNA. For that person ever to be thought of suitable to come out of prison is truly appalling. So I think there's an issue in terms of sentencing guidelines generally. It's not actually the judge's fault with some of these sentences. They are constrained by the Sentencing Council, and the judge, therefore, has got quite strict rules. If it meets this band, that band, they can sentence accordingly. I think there's probably a case for the Justice Secretary, who, of course, I know follows this same view, because he, Dominic Raab, was keen to retain this lady in prison, or woman monster, actually, in prison. Can't say that. I couldn't have said that when I was in the police, but monster is the correct word. For him to get a team together to revisit the sentencing guidelines and see if that element of both prison and public protection is quite right in terms of the balance.
Yeah, I'm quite keen to touch on something that you alluded to earlier, which is about how you yourself have dealt with similar cases. And I'm always very keen to know how the police feel about these incidents. I mean, do you find it very, very difficult to not show some kind of, like, visceral rage towards the offender in these cases? You must have to see and, frankly, do some pretty horrible things.
I've dealt with very similar cases with mothers who didn't look too different to that, where you go into houses where there's dog faeces, human faeces on the floor. The bath is full of dirty old tins and rubbish and food, bin bags everywhere. in fact, we use a phrase, the kind of place you wipe your feet on the pavement when you leave. You are right. In fact, you have a real sense internally of rage and anger, but you're there to do a professional job for the victim, which in this case is a child. And if you allow that to interfere with your professional judgment in how you conduct the interviews, gather the evidence, then you're not doing what's needed to get justice to the victim.
Yeah.
So I can remember one specific case, horrific child, severely shaken, permanently brain damaged, sitting down quite nicely with someone who smelt horribly, and given a cup of tea and biscuits, and a partner a cup of tea and biscuits, and being ever so polite and nice, even when I greeted him shaking his hand, because what you want to do is get them to talk to you so that you can gather the appropriate evidence to get them in prison for as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, and I completely admired the job our police do. Of course, there are a few bad apples we hear about all the time, but I do have massive amounts of admiration for the profession. And that leads me on to our next question, which is something we'll also be talking about later, is this idea that, you know, police are sort of wearing rainbow flags and rainbow caps, and they're letting criminals identify 67 genders, some police forces. I mean, do you find all this stuff quite trivial and quite embarrassing, actually? And, you know, should people be allowed to identify 67 genders if they're a criminal? What does that even mean?
Well, I don't know what that means, but what I can say about police wearing various motifs like rainbow epaulets, rainbow shoelaces, or even helmets, which is totally inappropriate. The role of police is to be completely apolitical and not show support for any group. So, for example, if someone should turn up wearing rainbow colours on the edge of their epaulets because their chief constables are doing it, which they do, and you turn up to a religious community, whether it's Christian or Muslim, to whom the idea of someone being LGBT is an anathema, you're actually throwing that in their face. So, and let me be clear, if someone is from the LGBTQ community, that's fine, I have no issues. But politically, police must avoid showing support for any group. So I actually think we're going down a route of some quite weakness and wokeness with senior police leadership. The reason the police are here is to serve the public, to protect them and look after the vulnerable people. That's where they should be focusing on, regardless of who, what, or whatever their gender is and what they look like. That's their job.
Well, I wish you were head of the Met. We wouldn't have half of these problems, would we?
Well, may I say, I've just been rejected in the 6 applicants for the Met on Friday, so you won't be seeing me saying clean your shoes, wear your hat, answer the phone, be a bit more professional, or alternatively saying we, the police, never back down when we're confronted. The public... You know, one of the things that really annoys me, and it was when I was in the police, I'd come in and find out what's gone on last night. Oh, we backed off this estate when we were confronted by the community. They are not the community, they are the yobs who terrify the community, which is the postman, the school dinner lady, the nighttime auxiliary nurse, carer. When you back down, you give it over to the yobs. The police have lost the plot at senior leadership level with some of the stuff they're doing, and I might say with the current College of Policing, which sets out their doctrine, I look at some of their stuff, it's quite appalling. Let me give you an example. Everyone's backing off about Taser. What they don't understand about Taser is actually it's far less injurious than someone kicking or punching you or hitting you with a baton. It's a low amperage shock that destabilises you for 5 seconds and it's all over. If a panicking policewoman or policeman hits you repeatedly with a metal baton, you're going to hospital. But no one gets out there and explains to people the reality of it. I would have liked to see much more robust policing and a return to better standards and values within the police in terms of dignity and professionalism.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you very much, of course, Kevin Hurley there, former Detective Chief Superintendent of the Met Police. And, I've actually been thinking about trying to get tasered, so I can not just by committing a crime, just to kind of know what it feels like. But anyway, maybe one day that can be sorted out for me. But anyway, Kevin, thank you very much.
I'd be happy to volunteer.
I'm sure you would, yes, but I would want someone who would actually eventually let go of the taser. But anyway, right, still to come. Did you know that some police forces in England recognise 67 different genders when registering criminals? No, we didn't either. But we'll be talking about that case very, very shortly. Don't go away.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
it's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick.
Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
Hello, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather update. Plenty of showers across the country today. Some sunny spells around as well, but it's not particularly warm for the end of May. Low pressure is in control of our weather. It's a fairly slow-moving area of low pressure. Not a lot of isobars on the chart, which means the winds are light, which means the showers are slow-moving, so you can get stuck under the showers for quite a while through the afternoon, particularly parts of eastern England, Northern England, southern Scotland and northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, the showers are a bit more hit and miss, so again, because they're fairly slow moving, you may stay largely dry and bright with a bit of sunshine. Temperatures could creep into the high teens, but for most we're low to mid-teens at best, feeling cooler, particularly if you get caught in a downpour. There'll be plenty of those around, and we'll still keep those heavy showers through the evening. They'll slowly start to fade, certainly across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, and for parts of the Midlands, southwest England, not too many showers overnight. The showers also easing across northeast Scotland, but we'll keep some elsewhere. Temperatures dropping down into single figures even in towns and cities. So a coolish start to another showery day on Tuesday. Again, the showers will develop across pretty much all areas. Again, some of them could be quite heavy, and again, they'll be fairly slow moving. I suspect, though, parts of southwest Wales, southwest England, not seeing too many showers. Certainly by the afternoon, looking largely dry here with some sunny spells. At the same time, a lot of cloud for Northern Ireland and plenty of heavy showers across eastern England. Again on the cool side, but with a bit more sunshine in the southwest, 17, 18, possibly 19 Celsius. Still, the showers keep going as we head through Tuesday evening and into Wednesday, and we'll keep a fair few showers during Wednesday, and that's how it's looking as we lead into the big weekend, of course, the Jubilee weekend. So likely to still be a few showers around at first, but overall the weather trends becoming drier and warmer for the Jubilee. Goodbye.
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's 11:26. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christie's, and Mercy Murky on GB News Live, as ever on your TV, online and radio this morning.
Yes, now the Platinum Jubilee celebrations are set to begin this week, with 12 million people expected to join in the festivities across the country.
Well, to commemorate the occasion, outstanding charities and community groups will be presented with the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, the highest award a voluntary group can receive in the UK.
Yes, well, our reporter Anna Riley caught up with one previous winner in Yorkshire to hear what the award meant to them.
The Basement Recovery Project in Calderdale helps people struggling with alcohol and substance abuse. To recognise their efforts, the charity was awarded the 2021 Queen's Award for Voluntary Service. All the staff and volunteers have at one time battled addiction issues. Alan Burton is one of them and was honoured to get the Queen's Award.
The Royal Stamp of Approval for the volunteers, it shows that you're a worthwhile person. You know, when you come through the doors for the first time here, a lot of us are broken. You know, you're down, you don't feel good about yourself, low self-esteem, low self-worth. Even what's the point of being here? And it shows that through changing and growing, we are worthwhile people, we're valuable people, and we can give back, we can give something worthwhile back and help people. And I think, you know, when it comes from Buckingham Palace, then I don't think you get any better stamp than that.
Alan sought help from the Basement Project 6 years ago after his addiction led to his marriage breaking down and him losing his job and home. He felt suicidal and considered turning to crime.
Addiction's on the inside, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a street user or if you're affluent with a good job, educated, money, it doesn't pick and choose. Addiction can affect everybody. And what we need to realise is that what you see on the outside is a facade. You know, the person, nobody wakes up and says, I want to be an alcoholic, I want to be a drug addict, I want to be homeless, I want to suffer from mental health. There is something that's happened in life to drive that person there, and it's taking the time to get to know the person on the inside rather than what you see on the outside.
Damien Johnson volunteers as a fitness coach at the charity and received support after he was sent to prison.
I ended up going to prison at 37 years old. I've been avoided it for my whole life somehow. And that was the trigger that made me realise I need to make some changes. You know, I'm getting to a point in my life now where I can't start the cycle of in and out of prison at my age. So that's when I looked towards recovery services. I was desperate, I needed help, I needed to make changes. And by coming to Basement Recovery Project, it just started the first step of the journey. And it's not been easy, it's taken me a while to get to where I am now. But I haven't used drugs or alcohol for 6 months now. You know, so something's worked, something's clicked, and I'm so glad that I did it.
And to add to the honour of being given the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, an invitation to Buckingham Palace awaits volunteers at the charity this summer. Anna Riley, GB News, Halifax.
Right, well, there we go. OK, interesting stuff. Thank you very much for bringing us that report, Anna. We're going to delve into the world of our inbox now, gbviews at gbnews.uk. And there's quite a lot of response to your discussion there about Baby P, the mother of Baby P set to be released. No new identity, though, as far as we're aware. Maybe it's time to look at our human rights acts. And this is from Steve. Yeah, again, he says, maybe inhumane behaviour should be treated with an inhumane punishment. This is Steve's view, obviously. He says death or life in a squalid prison, no electric equipment, no Christmas dinner, no privilege, no visitors, no freedom at all. That's from Steve.
Or maybe no air. Anyway, I find it utterly contemptible, Paul says, that people who murder women rightly get whole life sentences, but mothers who enable killers of children get a paltry few years. The regulations around sentencing need tearing up and starting again, and I'd be very much inclined to agree. I've lost count of the number of times I've said how pathetic the sentences are for some of these monster. We had Kevin Hurley on, ex-police officer. Philip says he's wasted in the police, a perfect Home Secretary.
Yes, indeed. Well, there we go. OK, and yeah, parole board's not fit for purpose, of course. That's a common view, Paul. And this is John, who raised an interesting point. And I've wondered this myself, John. I won't use the exact turn of phrase that you've used, of course. But, yeah, is she allowed to have kids again?
Yeah.
I don't know how old she is now, to be fair. But, I mean, is she allowed to have kids again?
I'd just be... I mean, she is basically a walking contraception, because I don't know who would would be attracted to that person.
Well, she was selling naked pictures of herself online, which
Yeah,
is what's to say about, so clearly there is a market there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what person in their right mind would want to be with a woman who allowed her child to be killed?
No, I agree with you, but
Yeah.
but there's the Levi Belfield, who I think murdered Millie Dowler, didn't he? Yeah.
That's true.
He's apparently getting married now, behind
Getting
bars.
married. There is a weird kind of niche and a weird sort of cult following some killers have. Aren't they? It's popular in America with serial killers.
Yeah.
They usually get a sort of a fangirls and fanboys.
Well, it's funny you should say this, actually, because I've become addicted to a TV show now, which I'm just going to make sure I get the name of this exactly right. It's called Love After Lockup, right? Yes, it is. And what it is it follows... I mean, it's trash, right? But it follows people who are getting out of prison and the people who've, like, married them on the inside. Sometimes has never met them in person, you know, or been funding them and this, that and the other. I mean, it never ends well. It never ends well. But it's like watching a car crash in slow motion, you know what I mean? You can see it coming. It's always like kind of old guys with quite like busty blonde women who've gone away for some like drug running in the past or whatever. You know, they've been funding them through... And it's literally just watching men get absolutely rinsed, non-stop for an hour.
What I don't get is conjugal visits, which I don't think are legal. Well, I don't think we have them in this country, but they certainly have them in America. Conjugal visits are obviously, you know, that people are allowed to bring a romantic partner in for private time, shall we say.
Yeah.
I just find that really bizarre. And what a slap in the face for people who are free men and they can't, you know, find romantic partners.
Yes, OK, well, there we go. Anyway, right, after the break. Are drivers being priced off the road? A London council leader is urging the mayor not to expand his ultra-low emission zone into the suburbs. Let us know what you think.
Yes, and some police forces in England recognise 67 different genders when registering criminals. We'll be diving into all that madness as well. But before that, a look at this morning's news with Rosie.
Thanks, Mercy. It is 11:33. I'm Rosie Wright, here to keep you up to date on GB News. Downing Street says it's set to ditch 350 European Union rules. Number 10 says their new procurement bill will rip up hundreds of complicated and bureaucratic regulations and replace them instead with a single framework for securing public sector contracts. The bill's expected to become law next year. The organisers of the Champions League final are meeting in Paris to discuss the violent scenes outside of the stadium over the weekend, where English fans were tear-gassed by French police on Saturday. The UK's Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries has urged the Union of European Football Associations to launch a formal investigation into what went wrong. The Office for National Statistics says the price of the cheapest pasta in the UK supermarket has risen by 50% in the year since April 2021. The price of bread and minced beef went up by 16%. It's as inflation hit a 40-year high. Ministers have reportedly been warned that as many as 6 million households could face power cuts this winter if Russia cuts off more supplies to the EU. The Times newspaper says the government is drawing up plans to ration electricity in case of major industrial gas shortages. The Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy says the government is fully prepared for any scenario, even those that are extreme and very unlikely. New estimates show that more than a fifth of care home beds in England are unfilled. The Office for National Statistics says the number of care home residents has fallen by around 8% since before the pandemic. Only 77.8% of the beds in the country are currently occupied. Drivers are expected to have been warned to expect long delays on popular routes during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee weekend. The RAC estimate that nearly 20 million journeys are planned between Wednesday and Sunday. Friday is expected to be the most congested. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.265 to the dollar. The pound is 1.175 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,469.80 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for physical investment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick.
Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. It's 11:38. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christie's, and Mercy Muroki on GB News. Now, we're live on your TV, online and radio as ever.
Yes, well, it's been revealed that 7 police forces in England and Wales allow criminals to be recorded as non-binary, meaning they do not consider themselves either male or female.
So, an investigation by the Sunday Telegraph this weekend revealed that 2 forces, Norfolk and Suffolk, allow offenders to register as unknown and unspecified, with a spokesman for both forces saying there were 67 different genders that people can present as.
Yes, well, Kelly J. Keane is a women's rights campaigner and founder of the Standing for Women campaign. She joins us now. Great to see you again. I can't even name more than 5 made-up genders. How on earth can you have 67 genders?
Well, you can't, basically, can you? It's ridiculous, nonsensical, quite embarrassing for something as serious as a police force to go along with. Just crazy.
Yeah, and that does... When I'm filling out, the equality monitoring forms or whatever, there are very sort of strict boxes in terms of, for example, ticking my ethnicity. I can't go around making up an ethnicity that doesn't exist because they have to track these things. So why are we allowing people to make up genders that are literally just made up out of the blue?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why are we doing it? I think there are threads of power and money woven right the way through this particular movement. And if you can go into a police force and you can have some just crazy diversity training that doesn't actually include people with disabilities and how they might work in the police force. It doesn't actually include the lack of representation of ethnic minorities, but it does include 67 genders. You can charge a few £100s for that, and then you can get them to sign up to a Mickey Mouse diversity and inclusion index, which Stonewall do. Then I think there's your answer. It's just money.
But what prison does a non-binary, two-spirit Labrador go to?
Well, I think it's the rainbow unicorn of prisons, probably.
OK,
no
sorry,
idea.
yes, silly me. Sorry, no, now I look like a mug, don't I, on national television? Goodness gracious me. No, but, I mean, there are very real risks with this. I mean, just yesterday I saw a report about a man who's a woman, who's been done for having sex with a woman in a prison whilst they were getting smashed off illegal booze that they made in prison. I mean, what on earth is going on?
Well, I don't know, but who knew if you put a man in a woman's prison that he might actually then take advantage of women or take advantage of the opportunity to access women's bodies? Like, what? I mean, you know, half of the men that call themselves women in prison are on the sex offenders register, so they certainly shouldn't be in women's prisons. But, you know, we have men's and women's prisons. We understand that men are more likely to commit violence, that men are more likely to commit sexual crimes. And so the erosion of these sort of very safe boundaries in which we record crimes can only hurt women. That's the only thing it can do.
No, exactly. And do you think that what this is now is a ridiculous fear of people who do not want to be seen as being transphobic? So I think sometimes we see situations take place where things like honour killings, for example, are not investigated, maybe always in the way that they could be, but they could because of things like a fear of being called racist or inflaming racial tensions, grooming gangs, of course, we know all about them. Is this a similar issue here, where we're kind of allowing people to identify as this, put them in situations that could be dangerous to women, etc., because people don't want to be seen to be transphobic?
Well, absolutely. And misogyny's never really been out of fashion, has it? So it's absolutely fine to hate women. It's fine to obliterate the safeguarding of children. So we're okay to hate women and children. But for goodness sake, let's not start hating men who call themselves women. Let's not start naming those men as men because we don't want to be accused of transphobic. I'm just really deeply shocked. More and more, year on year, how people are happy to be labelled misogynist.
Yeah, and what do you think this kind of, I mean, we're talking about the police here, but, you know, make no mistake, this is going on all over the place at the moment in terms of allowing people to identify as a whole host of genders. Tell us what you think, how you think this sort of thing could be abused, because we did have an email from a viewer and listener, Steve, who said, well, they'll just use all the categories every time they commit a different crime to confuse the system, because you won't be able to track who on earth it is. One day they'll be male and the next day they'll be non-binary, and the next time they commit a crime they'll be, I don't know, whatever the other ones are. It actually has quite dangerous consequences for potentially public safety.
Absolutely. Look, if I'm a violent sex offender and I want to continue to access women, then I'm going to say that I'm a woman and hope for a women's prison. If, you know, the police say to us, you don't want your house burgled, shut the windows. And yet they are opening this sort of opportunity for predatory men to access all kinds of spaces. We know from criminals, right? We know from research, we know from just basic common sense that if you are a criminal, you will find any which way to commit crime. And so allowing these open doors for these criminals, it just doesn't make any sense aside from saying, well, I'm happy to make it easier for this man to access a victim.
Yes, all right. Well, look, Kelly, thank you very, very much, as always, and keep fighting the good fight as well, of course. Kelly J. Keane there, who is campaigning for women, basically.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's go to some of your views. Lots of you have been getting in touch, which I have just completely lost. There you go. Lots of you have been getting in touch about what we were speaking about the police. We've just touched on it there, the police being a bit woke, the police letting people identify as different genders. Steve says, haven't we got it yet? The type of people that repeatedly get arrested just love to create confusion for the establishment. 67 genders, woke and weak. That's what Steve says about the police.
Yeah, well, indeed, I'm more inclined to agree with that, really, because when you see the crime rates and you see the knife crime rates, etc., well, what's the point in wearing a rainbow helmet if you can't stop a stabbing? But anyway, there we go. Right, OK, yes, loads of you, of course, getting in touch as well on this gender issue. I'm here with my mouth open, still trying to process the fact the police allow 67 genders to be identified. That's from Alejandra. Things like this will be the downfall of the human race. Gosh.
Well, we are literally, well, not literally, maybe literally, destroying civilization at the moment. I'm seeing the decline, the demise of civilization, because we're almost, humans have become almost too clever for their own good, that we're internally combusting by being absolutely...
That we're overthinking things. We should be focusing more on
Yeah, and
stuff.
we're just going to internally combust because, you know, we are going to destroy ourselves with all this ridiculousness that we're confecting all the time.
Yeah, the minutiae now of life. But anyway, there we go. Now, regular listeners of To The Point will have heard all about our good friend Nathan Dunn, who is still raising money and is still making his way across the entirety of the UK, walking barefoot from the northernmost point to the southernmost point. So he's doing it all for the mental health charity Mind after struggling with PTSD, depression and suicidal thoughts himself after a traumatic childhood.
Yes, well, he's raised over £20,000 and has travelled 600 miles already. So he's at the halfway point. And just to remind you, that's 600 miles barefoot. So all of that was barefoot. And to donate to him, you can go on his page, justgiving.com/fundraising/walk a mile in my shoes 22. That's to donate to Nathan. And we'll have him on the show probably this week. We'll try and get him on. He couldn't make it today, but we have been catching up with him and he's incredibly inspiring. And please, anything you can give would be much appreciated.
Absolutely.
It's for a good cause.
It is. It's all for the mental health charity Mind, of course, and I am trying to jump on board with this and do what I can to fundraise as well. And so basically, you lovely people, I've been asking you to donate to justgiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's. That's justgiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's. We're nearly at 17k people, OK? We'd like to get that up ultimately to as close to 50,000 as we can. And yeah, lots of you began to touch. I just want to say thank you so much for everyone's support. I am going through an epic weight loss journey. Some would say it's a good word cast aspersions as to exactly how epic it's been so far. But I've lost a stone in just over a month. I've got 2 weeks to lose half a stone. So I'm going from here today to the gym, and I might just live there, I think, for a couple of weeks. And then I'm dancing live on stage with the Dream Boys, who are a bunch of male strippers, on the 24th of June. So I've got a little way to...
Do you have a routine to...
They've sent me the routine, yes.
Have you been practising it at home?
Not yet, which is an issue, so I'm going to have to start
I'd love footage of that. If I could hack you for one thing, it would be to get footage, because it'd just be hilarious.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be great. I mean, that's
I know, but it's cute. It's going to be cute.
I really don't think it's going to be cute. I've seen the routine, and I think the word cute is not something that would really associate it. Anyway, justgiving.com/fundraising/Challenge Christie's. If you've got a couple of quid and you wouldn't mind chucking it that way, that would be lovely.
Yes, now London Mayor Sadiq Khan is being urged not to expand London's ultra-low emissions zone, also known as ULEZ, into London's suburbs. Conservative councillor Theresa O'Neill, who's leader of Bexley Council, called on Sadiq Khan to reconsider his ULEZ expansion for the sake of drivers. While with the cost of living crisis hitting many people, are ordinary Londoners in the suburbs being priced off the road?
Well, joining us now is Stephen Pound, former Labour MP for Ealing North, who I'm convinced now our producers are only getting on to talk about financial matters with the surname Pound. But there we go. Thank you very much. Are drivers being priced off the road? Is ULEZ a bad thing?
Well, no, I am the ultimate suburban person. You know, born and brought up in West London, out in the suburbs. I don't think this is an issue being priced out. I think what there is at the moment is a very clumsy mechanism that is being used by the mayor. Now, look, public transport in London is about as good as you can get. You can get around everywhere, and it's pretty reasonably priced. However, there are certain groups of people, like my boy, who's an electrician, who works out the back of his van, who, quite frankly, can't afford to actually pay what is, in effect, a surcharge. So, I think I said to you before, it's one thing worrying about 2030, but most of my people are worried about 8:30. And I think we need to actually have some amelioration here and now. Look, we all know that 15, 20 years ago, we were pumping lead into the air. We were killing our kids. We were actually rotting people's brains. Nobody would suggest going back to lead fuel nowadays. So we are moving forward. But what I want is a little bit more subtlety, a little more sensitivity from the mayor to actually think that people on the school run, people who are tradespeople, people who've got to go deliveries, they have got to be considered because, frankly, the small tradesperson is the lifeblood of London. And you would be pretty fed up if you couldn't have someone to pop round to fix your boiler, or in my son's case, rewire your extension.
Yeah, and the ULEZ charge is £12.50, I believe, in London, and I think it's an additional, if you then travel in through ULEZ and into the congestion zone, it's another, what is it now?
Well, it's
£17 or something. I don't know, but other cities are doing it as well. Where do we strike the balance then between, as you say, having cleaner air, but also making sure ordinary people aren't suffering for just having to get on with their daily lives?
What we do is we use fiscal mechanisms. The one way to really change public behaviour is through fiscal mechanisms. Smoking is the obvious example. Cigarette smoking doesn't happen so much nowadays, not just because of the smoking ban, but because of the price of it, because the so-called sin taxes, as dear Margaret Thatcher used to describe them on booze and fags, actually stop people drinking and smoking so much. So look, we need to do this the other way around, have a virtue tax. If you have to use your vehicle, and you have to use it for your trade, or there's a specific reason, you should be actually exempt from paying this charge for an interim period. Now, we all know we've got to head forwards to 2030, but in the short term, let's have a taper. Let's have it so that people have got 10, 15 years. You know, my son, I got mentioned on about him being an electrician, but, you know, if he said he had to change his van in 5, 10 years, he could probably live with that. What he cannot live with is actually having to go to his customers and say, I'm going to have to put a surcharge on top of the price, of the very reasonable price, I hasten to add, that he's already quoted, because of this tax on him. So it's unsubtle. It uses a sledgehammer to crack what is undoubtedly a problem. But frankly, I think, you know, I'd like to see Mayor Khan be a little bit more sensitive here.
All right, Stephen, look, thank you very, very much. Stephen Pound there, of course, who's been whizzing you through yet more on this cost of living crisis. ULEZ is going up, going through the roof. Oh, motorists being priced out of the car, essentially, off the road is what I really should have said. But, yes, there we go. I mean, there was a time where I lived where if I moved my car off my drive, it cost me money.
Oh, because you were directly on a road.
It's in the zone. Yeah,
I
exactly.
Don't like that. Somebody's emailed in saying, as they understand it, the ULEZ expansion, the planned zone for expansion, some of it would cross the M25,
right?
Which he's wondering if it's a mistake. Everybody who drives past that section of the road.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you know,
he's sneaky, that Sadiq Khan, isn't he? He might try and sneak in.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because presumably we're paying for his ULEZ because he does drive around sometimes in cars, doesn't he? He's driven around in cars, and so presumably we're paying his ULEZ, but he wants us to pay our own as well. Anyway, let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you may have missed. What we got here? So, Slough Borough Council, who are now bankrupt, classic, have reportedly spent £28,000 on indoor plants, which are now slowly dying.
Yes, well, the council declared bankruptcy last year and bought the 200 plants in 2019 when moving into their £41,000 Observatory House headquarters. Council leader James Swindlehurst says the authority will move out of the council house because borrowing debts that add up to £760 million wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. The name Swindlehurst is probably quite appropriate here anyway. He says the plants were bought for the well-being of staff. Gosh, I mean...
Hang on a second. 200 plants for £28,000?
Yeah, that's... What? Where are they getting those plants? Are they actually flying to the Amazon and hacking them down themselves and dragging them back over? Anyway.
Yeah, well, terrible use of money. I don't know who signs these things off, but... God knows what they were thinking.
Yes, there we go. Although I must say, we've got some plants at the far end of our studio there, and they are cracking for my well-being. Don't know how you feel about them, but without that, one day one of those plants wasn't here, and I just descended into a deep pit of depression.
They are fake.
But now, what? Oh no, send me under again.
I've broken it.
Yeah, easy. Right, okay, moving on. An investigation, you do it.
Jinx, has been launched after a transgender convicted murderer. This is not funny. Who is serving time in women's prison. Her Majesty's Prison Bronzefield was reportedly caught having sex with another prisoner. Well, the pair were allegedly caught after a secret booze session in a cell, and fellow inmates then reported the incident to staff members. And the prisoner has now been moved to a transgender wing. 16 miles away.
Why weren't they there to begin with? Yeah, this is what I don't understand. Why were they there to begin with?
We must also say this was supposedly consensual sex, so there's no allegations here of rape. But still, it's what people warn about, isn't it, really? Even if it is consensual, it just feels fundamentally wrong for anybody who's a male who has the potential to have sex with penetrative sex with a woman. for that person to be in a women's enclosed space, you know?
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
I don't think it would make any sense at all to anyone really. But anyway, right now, before we go, another reminder that every Wednesday we hand our show over to you, our beautiful viewers and listeners, and we want you to tell us what to talk about. What are the most important stories for you?
Yes, please tell us the subjects that need covering, the questions that you want answering, and we'll get to those on Wednesday. And you can send those suggestions over to tothepoint@gbnews.uk. That's tothepoint@gbnews.uk. But that is it from us here at To The Point. Don't go away, however, because up next we're bringing you the briefing with Gloria De Piero.
Hello, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather update. Plenty of showers across the country today. Some sunny spells around as well, but it's not particularly warm for the end of May. Low pressure is in control of our weather. It's a fairly slow-moving area of low pressure. Not a lot of isobars on the chart, which means the winds are light, which means the showers are slow-moving, so you can get stuck under the showers for quite a while through the afternoon, particularly parts of eastern England, Northern England, southern Scotland and northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, the showers are a bit more hit and miss, so again, because they're fairly slow moving, you may stay largely dry and bright with a bit of sunshine. Temperatures could creep into the high teens, but for most we're low to mid-teens at best, feeling cooler, particularly if you get caught in a downpour. There'll be plenty of those around, and we'll still keep those heavy showers through the evening. They'll slowly start to fade, certainly across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, and for parts of the Midlands, southwest England, not too many showers overnight. The showers also easing across northeast Scotland, but we'll keep some elsewhere. Temperatures dropping down into single figures even in towns and cities. So a coolish start to another showery day on Tuesday. Again, the showers will develop across pretty much all areas. Again, some of them could be quite heavy, and again, they'll be fairly slow moving. I suspect, though, parts of southwest Wales, southwest England, not seeing too many showers. Certainly by the afternoon, looking largely dry here with some sunny spells. At the same time, a lot of cloud for Northern Ireland and plenty of heavy showers across eastern England. Again on the cool side, but with a bit more sunshine in the southwest, 17, 18, possibly 19 Celsius. Still, the showers keep going as we head through Tuesday evening and into Wednesday, and we'll keep a fair few showers during Wednesday, and that's how it's looking as we lead into the big weekend, of course, the Jubilee weekend. So likely to still be a few showers around at first, but overall the weather trends becoming drier and warmer for the Jubilee. Goodbye.